your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
It was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Gaither's record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands. And the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta.
Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 109 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that is covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA, HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our Caseway Show 30 AM studios with Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. How's it going, gentlemen?
Doing well, Dr. Cavil.
Not bad. How you guys doing? It's Margarita Thursday for some.
Oh, you're not showing out on us, are you?
No, I wish I was.
That's well spoken. Yeah, I might have to pull something out of the freeze now that you mentioned it. That's not a bad idea. I tend to try to wait till Friday, but maybe it's something about a Thursday that makes sense, especially we just got all these great HBCU sports going on.
Yeah.
This is the lax weekend for SWAC basketball. We'll get into that. We have some games going on, so you can sneak in back and forth, but we'll keep you up here. So just stay right here if you would. With that, let me give a shout out to Alan Bozeman, Jerome, Jeep Sutton, Ricky Burden, JSU. Welcome to the Jeep. He's making sure they know Jerry is boom. It's been great snacks.
Boom.
Chuck Hunt, Kay Johnson, Chuck Hunt. Hey, time for the one-on-one. Let's go. Willie Alex Hines, CIAA Country in the house. Also, we'll be watching FAMU North Carolina Central game. Yeah, we'll give you an update of what took place yesterday. Big comeback win by FAMU, just to note. Kay Johnson says, good evening, Sports Lab crew. That's right. Jerome Jeep Sutton, Rattler Mania. Yeah, big Rattler news in the news today. My goodness, boy, I tell you. Thomas White says, what's up, fellas? Willie Mack. Ricky Burden, you said Chuck Hunt, always in here deep. Getting it done in so many different ways. Reginald Johnson, Brent Brunson. So we got the crew coming in. Chad Cooper is on here talking about Tuesday and Thursday class bring back memories of y'all. Yes, sir. We doing you need to set your schedule because you know what we do, because we will grade you. Miss a class if you want to. We'll put that F squared in your life. Yeah, ask us about that. That F squared in your life, boy, that'll mess up your GPA like nothing else. With that, let's get into it. Let's have some fun as we get into a great show today where we're going to break down some of the football matchups that we plan to see this weekend. So we'll go inside the numbers in some ways. We'll give you an update of the game that took place last night, some basketball games that you can look at. We might even sneak in a little baseball, depending on what Mike Washington wants to do. Sometimes he loves to get the ping of the bat, so he's a specialist in that area some way. Charles likes to get it too, so he might sneak in some updates of some big matchups, conference-wise, that you get into.
Big ones.
We're going to make sure that we show the women some love, so softball might sneak in there, and we certainly going to talk about women's basketball. So we'll be full circle for you. So with that, let's get in with the skinny, as you know how we do it. We're going to give you a little bit of the news of the day. Big news out there. Let's see where you want to start. I'm going to go around the wagon. First one I see, let's go with Charles. Charles Bishop, give me some news of the day.
All right, well, let's start it off. Big news hitting today. And this comes from Tallahassee, Florida. Florida A&M Athletics. Florida A&M Athletics announced a 6-year agreement with Nike Inc. to make Nike the official athletic footwear, apparel, and equipment provider for the Rattlers beginning July 1st, 2021. This is a statement from Director of Athletics Courtney Gaucher. FAMU is an elite institution with a rich tradition of first, and our student athletes deserve a student athlete experience that is second to none as we transition into a new athletic conference and the opportunity to engage apparel partners. The 23-year relationship with Nike and their commitment to culture, diversity, inclusion, and innovation has never been clearer. So huge news today coming from the highest of the 7 hills, Florida A&M.
Man, I just love the little snake by the foot over here in the throne. LeBron James in the middle, Nike to your right, the Rattlers. Man, this came off with a blast. Obviously, early it looks like they were going the new with Adidas, and all of a sudden you get this out of nowhere. I had to send a message to Courtney Gaucher. I was like, "Oh, go big, just go big, then." He's like, "Hey, man," he gave me the 5. He was, his chest out there big. I said, "Yeah, I can't say nothing." He text Willie. You know what Willie said? I said, "You're holding back, bro." He said, "Man, I can't go all the dudes." I said, "Yeah, okay, be ugly, just be ugly with it." Mike, I know you want a piece of this. What's your thoughts on that announcement?
It's big for FAMU, but I, like a lot of alumni with different institutions, I don't want to say I'm hating, but I'm hating. So, here is an example of an athletic department staff, alumni department, executive leadership that an alumni group organization that have gotten together in terms of marketing and branding. Here's an example. It's demonstrative. And, I take my alma mater I'd like to see that from Prairie View A&M, but this is terrific news, not only for FAM, but for HBCUs. This is big, but man, I just like to say there's a little salt being thrown. like, man, another FAMU announcement like that. They are doing it. Congratulations to the FAMU organization, but a part of me is like, oh man, another one.
Hey, Mike, we keep it real here, so you can tell the both. You can say the shade, a little bit of shade, a little excitement, a little bit like, really? That's what y'all gonna do right now? Hey,
they throwing it out like that?
What does Alan say in terms of 1876 sports and culture?
Yeah.
Hit him with the butterfly?
Hit him with a butterfly. I'm looking at I'm looking at Dr. Lee like, what's up, Dr. Lee? Oh man.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit too. What you gonna do now?
Pretty cool. First Jackson State, now FAM. I'm like, what's up, Dr. Lee?
Yeah. Roy back there just smiling. He just like,
he is.
He couldn't wait to put it on the screen for us. That's a great picture, though. With that, Mike, go ahead and tell us some other sport news of the day.
Oh yeah, this comes from a number of sources, social media or whatever. So when NBA basketball fans watch the NBA All-Star game this Sunday, for those of you that are still keeping track of basketball, there'll be a lot of HBCU influence and culture on display. So the NBA, along with the National Basketball Players Association, expected to allocate $2.5 million to historically Black colleges and universities, including the unveiling of a logo, a court designed, created, and collaborated with HBCU alumni from various schools. It incorporates icons representing HBCU academics, music, campus life, connecting back to the celebration of the game at the center of the court. So, kudos, hats off to the NBA for that. You wonder if Chris Paul had a lot to do with this or others had a lot to do with this, but the HBCUs will be on display. at the NBA All-Star game this Sunday.
Man, and shout out to Roy for getting that picture up. Everybody can see that hadn't seen it already. You broke it down, man. That is fantastic in terms of that floor right there. Boy, I'm gonna have to get some good snapshots of that. That's fascinating. Great news, great updates in terms of what's going on there. Boy, living fly if you at HBCUs right now, boy. I tell you, it's nice. Let's keep going. With that, let me give a special announcement before I do some shouts out and then take it back to Charles. After the lab tonight, stay around for the tutoring session. Brian Fulford and AD Drew will be breaking down the HBCUs in the NAIA that made the national tournament after this evening's bracket release. The show will be at 8 o'clock. Going on right now, they will have various head coaches as guest lectures from the various programs scheduled to appear are the head coaches from Langston Women's, Russ Women's, Stillman Men's Program, Talladega Men's and Women's Program, Xavier's Men's and Women's Program, and Voorhees Men's Program. Switch over to their Facebook page, BCSN Sports Lab or Black College Sports Network. You can also follow them online at www.mybcsn.net or download the app available, Google Play, Apple App Store, what have you. They will start off at 8 o'clock Central Time. So tune in, get your little rest, get back into your scores, and then jump back in here with the BCSN group with Brian and AD of the Sports Wrap, as they'll get it done. As they said, they'll take you into their tutoring session to give you a little insight on the program. So wanted to make sure we gave that information, gave you a shout out there to let you know what's going on all around us. Boy, I tell you, it's great information there. Shout out to Ralph as he continues to show us that great insight of what's going on here. Let me see if I can get a little update from the folks out there that's joined us. Jermaine Caldwell, World Fame Tiger Marching Band, to give a little shout out to Dwight Moore, shout out in terms of Lonnie Shaw getting in here, Aggie Pride, Joe Walker, that's J.O. Walker, outstanding, talking about what's going on in terms of what's out there. Shout out to all these folks giving us much love. Appreciate you all. Back to it. Let's go back into the lab. Let's go with Charles. What else do you have in your treasure chest there?
Sure. Well, this statement comes from the SWAC office, and SWAC announces health and safety guidelines for upcoming men's and women's basketball tournaments. Of course, as you know, the SWAC basketball tournament will be held next week. The 2021 Cricket Wireless SWAC men's and women's basketball tournaments will be held March 10th through the 13th at Bartow Arena in downtown Birmingham. This year, the SWAC has followed guidance from the CDC, NCAA, and the league's COVID-19 Advisory Committee to put in place additional health and safety protocols to keep tournament participants, workers, and fans safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fans attending this year's event will be required to wear face covering or mask at all times while in attendance. Spectator seating for the event is limited to 1,000 fans per session and will be divided into socially distanced sections. Spectator seating will be spaced out in accordance with CDC's prescribed safety distance of at least 6 feet apart. All available spectator seats will be sanitized before use, and there will be increased sanitation measures performed in all common areas throughout the duration of the event. In addition, the SWAC will also utilize a tier credentialing system that minimizes interaction and creates the safest possible environment for participating teams, event workers, and media. The system limits the number of individuals on the team, bench, of the court, as well as locker room, along with additional areas of the facility. So important news coming from the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Ooh, big news there. A lot of good information in regards to the safety protocols going into the SWAC tournament. It's right upon us, man. It's moving fast in terms of all the different types of action that's going on there. Great information, great insight. Thanks for sharing that. Mike, let me go back to you and see if there's some other news that you want to share and put out there for us to consider.
Yeah, we have a little movement, I guess, in the MEAC. So at the head coaching position, Norfolk State University Athletics Director, Melody Webb. I got this on a tweet, and it was a couple of cross emails. Melody Webb announced Wednesday that head coach Latrell Scott has resigned to accept another career opportunities. From what it looks like, some suggest that he will accept the position as assistant coach at East Carolina University. So assistant head coach William B.T. Sherman, with a name like BT, I love them initials, BT, will serve as interim head coach at Norfolk State. So we would like to thank, there's an announcement. We would like to thank Coach Scott for all his hard work and dedication to the football program over the past 6 years. The family wishes him and his family much success. Scott was appointed head coach of the Spartans in December of 2014 and guided Norfolk State to a 21-35 record in his 5 seasons. His best season came in 2019 when Norfolk State won 3 of its final 4 games to finish 5-7, the program's best mark since 2011. So we wish Coach the best, Coach Scott the best in his endeavors, but that came across the wires actually yesterday evening.
Good stuff there, Mike. Let me go right back to you, Charles. What other news of the day do you have?
Yeah, well, this comes to us from Alabama State. Alabama State and Tuskegee. They will renew rivalries to meet again in the Turkey Day Classic. The Alabama State Department of Intercollegiate Athletics announced the fall 2021 schedule, and it is highlighted by the renewal of a rivalry at the Turkey Day Classic against Tuskegee. Alabama State and Tuskegee will meet November 25th inside ASU Stadium in what will be the 89th meeting between the two schools on Thanksgiving Day. So we got the Turkey Day Classic again, guys.
Yep, absolutely. Turkey Day Classic is back.
It's back. Man, that's a big matchup. I know it's a Division II in FCS, and some people have a little concern in terms of that, but that's just a historical rivalry game, so it's good to have it back in a lot of ways. They also have Miles on the schedule, and for Division II matchups, rivalry games, and the way Miles has been playing, those 2 games won't necessarily be easy when you talk about because what they mean rivalry-wise. It's fascinating in so many different ways there. Great information in terms of what that looks like. Sticking with Alabama State in the state of Alabama, it's official now. We kind of teased this out on Tuesday that this was coming, and a lot of people got ahead of it, but the signatures were signed in a lot of ways. Mo really got this out there in terms of what he gets at. And when I talk about Mo, obviously we're talking about Mo Carter in terms of what he gets out there and giving him that information, Morrell, officially as you would, providing that information on Alabama A&M, signing the contract to go play in Orangeburg against South Carolina State as their game against Valley was dropped. I thought that was some big news when you talk about what that looks like in so many different ways. Fascinating. That game will be televised on ESPN3, so I'm interested in that matchup. You talking about the defense of the Bulldogs and the offense of Alabama State. I won't tease out that much. We'll get a chance to get a little more inside the numbers. And then they're returning the trip next year for the Lewis Cruise. But I thought what else Mo was able to get out there was even bigger in terms of a lot was going on when he broke the news to some degree about Alabama State also getting a contract. They'll play in April against South Carolina State, and that game will be in Montgomery. Then Alabama State will return the trip to Orangeburg, but it won't be done, not next year, but in 2023. Great information, a lot of matchups there. That's going to be fascinating to kind of keep your eyes on what's going on there. So I thought I would jump in there and share that a little bit. So much good news in there. Let's kind of turn the page a little bit. Let's turn the page and let's get into some of the basketball information out there. We did have one particular game from yesterday that was on the board, which is, if you would, FAMU traveling to North Carolina Central as the MEAC is closing out. Obviously, in a lot of ways, people have kind of seen, thought that the MEAC was basically finished because you got all the announcements of teams clinching essentially their divisional titles. And the Southern Division, that was North Carolina A&T, although a couple of games still to be played, they have locked down a championship in the Southern Division. And then you have in the Northern Division on the men's side, that is, you have Morgan State, Norfolk State, and Coppin State, with Coppin State and Norfolk State locking down at least a share of that crown. Morgan State essentially has 2 games playing Delaware State. Delaware State hasn't played very well all season. So you would think Morgan State can get it done, and you would have literally a 3-way tie in the Northern Division for that championship if that is the play out today and tomorrow. So we'll see. But in regards to the game yesterday, you did have FAMU getting it done after being down early, late in the first half and then early in the second half, if you would, down to North Carolina Central. They just reeled off the points and got it done in so many different ways as they won 65-58. Continues to be one of those years for North Carolina Central. You're not used to this for this program. Indication of FAMU getting it done. We talked about them being disappointed of losing that last home game on court, but they've bounced back. They've gotten a win over North Carolina Central this week. It's interesting they're playing today, playing now, and it's going to be interesting to see who closes out the regular season between these two programs with the win. And so that's one I will have my eyes on. In terms of what happened last night, Charles, what were your thoughts in terms of the FAMU North Carolina Central basketball?
Well, they caught me off guard because I was not expecting Florida A&M to get that victory against North Carolina Central. So it was an eye-opener, at least for me, especially Florida A&M positioning themselves for the MEAC tournament to kind of be on the upswing, if you will. And I think that's North Carolina Central's 4th loss now. It's been kind of a really tough season for what has been a traditional powerhouse in the MEAC. So it'll be interesting to see where North Carolina Central can get some scoring next week, especially as we look toward the MEAC tournament. Yeah,
Great point again in terms of that. Let me jump over to you, Mike. What are your thoughts in terms of that FAMU North Carolina Central matchup? What did you think about that game?
I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that the Eagles lost. I was surprised that it was FAMU. I don't think FAMU has had a win in quite some time. And the Eagles have, I think CB alluded to, lost about 4 or 5 straight. So they're on a downslide, but I was surprised that it was FAMU and then the way that it was accomplished. I mean, if you look at that game, I mean, there's all kinds of statistics that stand out. I mean, but
yeah, they were down 10 at half, 35-25. They outscored 40-23 in the second half. Just going on a run and really stopping the will of the Eagles in terms of how they were controlling the game. So your point is very valid when you talk about the way they lost that game. Not only that they lost, that may not be a surprise, but the way they won. But continue with your thought process there.
Yeah, I mean, they held the Eagles to 20% from the field in the second half. And if you look at the statistics, I don't think they shot over 30%, from the field at all. Or if it was a little over. So it was 32%, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. So both teams shot well from the free throw. FAMU was at 84% from the free throw line, and the Eagles were 72%. But the real stat that stands out is that none of the Eagles starters were in double figures. You had 4 of the 5 Rattlers starters in double figures. There was only 2 people from the bench from the Eagles that had double figures, and it was like 10 or 11 points. So they had to go deep into their team, their roster, and still, fell short. So it was a bit of a head scratcher.
5 of 26 from the field.
For
North Carolina Central, in the second half. So I think that was the thing that kind of that I took a look at, like, wow, that FAMU defense really stepped up and really made it very difficult for North Carolina Central. Both teams hook up again tonight, so it should be interesting to see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
Well, right now, Florida A&M is up by 3-4 points. I'm sorry, it's a 21-19 lead for FAMU.
Statement made. It wasn't a fluke.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on that. And then on the women's side, you have North Carolina Central getting it done against Norfolk State 65-61. So it's a solid win for Central as they start to close out their season and get prepared to go in the tournament. Central goes up to 4-11, and Norfolk State's Hardin's fall to 4-8 on the season in terms of what that looks like there. So fascinating in terms of what's going on between that. Obviously, the women get it done in the Southern Division, going 12-2 overall, 9-1 in the division. You got Howard getting it done 14-3, 10-2. We told you about the poll rankings. We discussed that on Tuesday, so we won't go back into that. But I did want to kind of get into basketball, if you would, in terms of the SWAC. Some matchups tonight. Some of them are going on in terms of the women's side as they start to close out the season with the last two games. You got Southern pounding Prairie View 39-19 at the half, making their closing statement on the season. You have Texas Southern making a statement as they have had a tough season. And that game was moved from campus to the HISD stadium based on some problems with the floor. But it looks like Texas Southern is making it work in their favor as they're pounding at the half Alcorn State 30-16 with about a minute, a little under 2 minutes left. With the women, you have Alabama State edging out Grambling in just before the first half, 30-24. And then Jackson State continues to do what they do at the half. They're leading Alabama A&M 26-15. Any surprise you see in these matchups? The game that I imagine that Charles is looking for Saturday is that Jackson State, Alabama State. In terms of that, it looks like it's rising up. You know, Alabama State is playing with Grambling. They're still in it. So we'll see if anything changes there before the end of the show. We'll keep you updated there. But in terms of the women's side, anything in terms of the game today or Saturday that you have in your periphery in terms of what's going on there? Let me go with you, Mike.
Yeah, well, going back to Southern, I think Carlos Brown sent me a text. He was like, Southern women, Prairie View men. Let me enlighten my good friend Carlos. The Southern women are at about 80 to 85% wins to loss ratios in the SWAC West. SWAC East, totally different story. So it's going to be Jackson State. It's going to be Alabama State coming out. One of those teams will come out victorious. I'm looking very forward to that game because you're looking at 50% of the top 10 scores in the SWAC in one game. And if you go to 12, you're talking basically 7 out of the top 12 scores or rebounders in the SWAC in that Jackson State Alabama State game. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I just wanted to, just throw that little nugget out there to Carlos Brown. Love him. But he sent me a little text saying something about
Yeah, he did send you a little love tap, and I see volleyball make a back there a little bit. But let me go with you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of the games today and Saturday? What are the things that people should look at as we close up the regular season?
Sure. Two games that I'm really looking at actually was the Alabama A&M and Jackson State tonight, and then of course Alabama State and Jackson State this weekend. But both very dangerous teams coming into Jackson. We saw Alabama A&M knock off Jackson State late last season, and tonight Jackson State seems to have the upper hand thus far. But Amisha Williams and Dariana Lewis, two great post players for Jackson State, or I should say Amisha Williams for Jackson State, Dariana Lewis for Alabama A&M. They kind of cancel each other out. So you always look in this game for who was going to take up the scoring slack for each other. Kishana Luckett thus far has been getting it done for Jackson State, as well as Deja Rogan, but Deshauna Harper for Alabama A&M. Always a very interesting and very tough matchup, I think, for Jackson State. And then you got a good one Saturday with Jackson State and Alabama State. So that should be a real good women's basketball contest to close out the season. Tonight, can Southern pull off the upset at Prairie View? That's one that I'm really taking a look at because Southern can be dangerous when they want to be dangerous. But, Prairie View is Prairie View when they're playing at home. So that's one to keep your eyes on tonight.
No doubt about it. Great point that you're making there. And with regards to that, this is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're going to take a break. As we take a break, stay tuned and we'll bring you back and we'll close out on the basketball stuff and we'll get into some great insight into football matchups.
Woo!
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Got this text. Jackson State's games will be broadcast.
Tea is a premium health and wellness tea line focused on bringing delicious yet healthy tea blends to the community. Filled with an abundance of vitamins and antioxidants.
You talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Looks like we got some breaking news from Charles. Charles, what do you got?
Sure. This comes to us from Dennis Driscoll, who's JSU's Associate Athletic Director, but SiriusXM to broadcast Jackson State Spring 2021 and Fall 21 football games. As Rob J will continue to be the voice of the Jackson State Tigers. Quick quote from Ashley Robinson: "I'm very excited to partner with SiriusXM to showcase our legendary football program on a global scale." So big news for Jackson State football in terms of being broadcast on SiriusXM.
Man, that's big news, man. They just continue to get it done. Florida Memorial in the house with Wild Mayor Will Marcelin Sincere is in here. Mike, what do you say about that one?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, like I said,
I understand.
I'm feeling that. See, I mean, to me, that epitomizes creativity and putting, and branding and getting your brand out there. Who else has thought about, getting your brand in your games and that exposure on a Sirius satellite? And here we have Jackson State. Kudos to them once again for their marketing efforts and for their efforts to get their brand out there in all of these different venues. So I'm just, yeah.
I understand. Let me give a shout out to Demetrius Gatewood, one of my students from the sport management program, now working on a master's over there at LSU, getting it done. G. Boom Holly trying to shoot the basketball game and catching the show, putting in work and still catching the show. I like that kind of stuff.
G. Boom.
Trudy
tailgate partner.
So much love for folks that find a way to get in here. So before we were teasing out a little bit of the football, we're going to go in deep in that. Before we do that, Mike, Charles, any of the baseball games that you wanted to point out that we should keep our eyes on this weekend?
Jackson State and Alabama State get together for a 3-game set. Yeah, that's gonna be huge.
That is the game.
Yeah, that's
nice 3-game set to see who has some pitching this year. So they battle early for supremacy in the SWAC East.
And who has the offensive prowess? Because they both also have offensive bats working. They both have been tops in batting averages, team slugging percentages. But Alabama State has had the advantage in terms of pitching because of their depth. I want to see these teams battle. It'll be exciting once, FAMU and Bethune come in, but right now they have been to me the powerhouses from a baseball standpoint to this point.
Well, this is what people want to know. Mike, who you got? Who you giving the edge to?
Alabama State.
Charles? But you on the spot?
Yeah, I know. I think Alabama State has a tremendous pitching staff. I think they have the pitching staff that can take 2 out of 3 this weekend. So I probably will have to lean towards Alabama State and getting this series win this weekend.
Good deal. Dwight Moore says Big news, Sirius XM, he said about time. He thought it should have been done a while ago. J.O. Walker says SWAC just continue to take over the world. Yeah, in a lot of ways, they continue to get it done. So big time. Gene Boom Holly wants to talk about the football, about PVMs, and as they say, it's Stu in that area, Texas Southern University, to correctly put it there. And we're going to get into that matchup. In fact, let's do that now. Let's jump into these big-time matchups. Let's tease out the first one I have, and I'm going to go pretty much in terms of order of the games to be played. So let's start with Arkansas Pine Bluff at Southern. Southern jumped to 1-0, big win over Alabama State. We talked about that on Tuesday. Arkansas Pine Bluff game with Texas Southern to open up previous week was postponed because of weather. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Southern? What are some keys that you should look at in this matchup?
I think actually Arkansas Pine Bluff is a dangerous team with Doc Gamble. First season last year that they had a winning season since 2012. They have an experienced offensive line coming back, two dangerous wideouts, and Harry Ballard and I believe his name is DeJuan Miller. So they have some very dangerous wideouts. Skylar Perry is returning quarterback, and it's much like a lot of quarterbacks in the SWAC. Which Skylar Perry are you going to get? So it's a consistency sort of thing with Arkansas Pine Bluff, but a dangerous team. But I give edge to those teams that have gotten that game under their belt. So I have to go with Southern, especially with the home opener here.
Oh man, good points that you make there. Good points you make there, Mike. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, that's a tough one. The Golden Lions, they got some talent. The passing game gets back a receiver from former Missouri transfer Harry Ballard, but I think I would have to agree with CB and go with Southern. Skylar Perry is a veteran passer. He has his top weapons back on the ground. You wonder about the secondary they're facing.
Man, you sound like you hedging your bets, man. Come on.
You know what? I'm going to go with Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Oh, there you go. How you talking? I know. You say, don't test me.
Say it with your chest.
I'm going to stick with you, Mike. This is the one that just came off the announcement, obviously. Alabama A&M was scheduled to play Valley, but now Alabama A&M is taking what they believe is a championship-level team, particularly on the offensive side with the quarterback. Now they check it into MEAC territory. They're going in South Carolina in terms of Orangeburg, and they're taking on the Bulldogs, the Battle of the Bulldogs. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts in terms of this matchup.
All right. You want me or CB to start this one?
I'm staying with you, Mike.
All right. Well, with South Carolina State, the secondary is solid. The linebacker core is really great. The offense was okay. They had a solid running game. Akil Glass will be or should be the best quarterback in the SWAC. He runs a very efficient offense. So like South Carolina State, he just don't have to screw it up though. So the defense of Alabama A&M they struggled in 2019. They were in the middle of the pack. So who is my pick? My pick for the game is actually South Carolina State because it's on both sides of the ball.
Interesting. Charles, you got something else?
I like the offensive firepower of Alabama A&M with Akil Glass, 2,000-yard receivers, NFL caliber tight end. But the question for me in this game is, can they match that MEAC physicality, if you will? South Carolina State, I think they can handle themselves quite well in terms of offensive and defensive lines. Where is Alabama A&M with regards to their defense? That's the question. We know they can score points, but can they stop anybody? Corey Fields was a dynamic quarterback last year for South Carolina State, has a nice deep threat in Jack Davis. So I like the Bulldogs of South Carolina State at home.
Yep.
No doubt about it. Fascinating match up there, and I think you called it both ways. We'll get into some scores and thought process. You kind of say where you're hedging your bet, but let's go to the one that I know Charles has a little extra.
What you gonna say?
Him. This is Jackson going on the road. Old time rivalries. Literally, this goes back to the Mid-Western Athletic Association days, before both teams joined the SWAC in the same year. So this rivalry has big time written all over it. Coaching, championship level, Grambling for Grambling, new coach at Jackson State. The pedigrees is long and hard on this, but now it starts a thunder. New day, new year in terms of doing it in the spring. What's your thoughts on Jackson State at Grambling State?
Let me be definitive about this. Grambling State has traditionally had Jackson State's number. Jackson State has not had a good deal in terms of trying to play Grambling. Grambling has whooped Jackson State since 2012, and I do mean whooped. This is going to be a difficult contest for Jackson State to go in and get the victory on the road, but I will say this. What for all the ancillary that everybody looks at Coach Prime, Dion, in regards to all that stuff, he has this team looking completely different from a mental standpoint. And we were down there on the sidelines a couple weeks ago against Edward Waters. I can definitively say it is a different look, a different feel to the team. They are tremendously disciplined. They did have, some what has come to become a Jackson State bugaboo over the past few years as mental mistakes inside the red zone. The biggest takeaway that I've taken away from this Jackson State team after that one game was they just look so much better prepared, if you will, if that makes sense. They were tremendously disciplined. This will be tough, but I do believe Jackson State has the firepower to go into Grambling and get this victory. Very tough, very tough. Which Jalen Jones will you get? I think consistency is everything. Which Jeremy Higbottom will you get? But I think it's the team that is able to make some defensive stops, and Jackson State's defense is for real now.
Yeah, I think you make some salient points that people may be overlooking, and they're focusing on this game between the coaches. And like most games, it's going to be played on the field. But I do agree with you with the discipline that you see with Jackson State. And that can go a long way in terms of football, especially when the team has your numbers and is in your head. You need something to help turn that around. So it's going to be fascinating. But more than what I think, I want to know what Mike thinks in terms of this match.
Yeah, I think Jalen Jones showed us efficiency with 17 of 19 for 163. And 2 touchdowns. He did spread the ball against Edward Waters. So he's still going to need a little bit of time before he's able to really integrate this new coaching staff philosophy. So basically the word is you got to get the offense going. Grambling State, to be honest, should struggle a bit to keep up going with Jackson State going up and down the field. Because their defense has improved significantly over the 2019 Grambling version. If there's anything slightly comforting to Jackson State, it's that against Jackson State only averaged 4.4 yards a carry. Through all of that offense, they only averaged 4.5 yards a carry. So, yeah. But Grambling does not have that defense. That remains to be there. They do have Jeremy Higbottom, who's a solid quarterback, who played very well. They also have wide receiver Lyndon Rash is going to be a problem. He's going to make this a fight.
He might be injured.
Huh?
I was going to make that point that Lyndon Rash might not be available for this game, and this social media things that I've seen. But
If
that could be a determinant. So
yeah, if he's not available because he's their primary offensive threat, then it'll be a little bit more one-sided toward Jackson State. But I look for overall a different version of Jackson State. This not only from last week to this week, but from the previous full season. So I have, even though some of the odds makers have Grambling State winning in Grambling, I have Jackson State pulling it out.
Man, these folks over there, you can tell these Aggies and Rattlers, they are tearing up the bit. They chopping up the bit, trying to figure out they want some football. They want some football. I want some football. No, man, y'all set this out. Just listen to us. Y'all just listen. and it's the SWAC time. Y'all gonna have to sit this out. FAMU, you can get something in the fall. And you'll take your stuff on the road to the Big South, leave it to the big boys. We figure out how to way to get some excitement. Let me throw some love out there to Tennessee State because they're getting it on as well. And we will break that game down. With that, Charles, you want to sneak something else in there?
Yeah, I think what will be huge in this game is which team can actually run the football. Mike, you touched on it. Jackson State against Edward Waters only averaged 4.4 yards per carry. So that is a bit concerning. But I said this to kind of lead off the segment, Dr. Cavil. Jackson State has a game under its belt. And I think that could play a significant factor in terms of who's going to protect the football. Jackson State has kind of gone through the wash, if you will, at least having that one game. Can they take advantage of any Grambling mistakes? I think that'll go a long way in this game. I think Grambling must protect the ball to get this win, but this is going to be a good one. It's hard to pick this one, but I'll go with the Jackson State Tigers on this one.
Yeah,
that's what we hire you for, Charles, to make the hard, tough decision.
I know. And if I say Grambling, I have a host of Jackson State Tiger fans that will be on my case.
I think that wasn't objective. That's for his life. His mama there. He better say Jackson State.
Yeah, I've gone against Jackson State 20 times.
That's true. Right here on this show, to your credit, you will call it like you see it. I just like that you found a way to rationalize that out in this case. But on seriousness, I think you make some valid points on what to look for. And there's so much about that that's simply the unknown. This is not the traditional Grambling-Jackson State matchup where it may have been tougher to call it one way or the other, where you came in with a team either was looking to be dominant or a team that had been dominant. Like we said, we really don't know what's going to go on this matchup. There's some question marks on both sides. Grambling's defense, some people believe, as they're stating on here, the defense for Grambling is going to be improved and be better. But until you see it, that's something you have to check on. And you imagine could be. But like you said, quarterback playing this game, it's a big unknown for both sides. You have one quarterback that's more seasoned with Hickbottom, but he's had his ups and downs. So there's some question in there in terms of the wide receiver play. You had both of these teams that had wide receivers that will make great plays, big plays, but you've also seen them drop balls, plays that they should make in terms of their quarterback. So there's that variable that goes on. So I really like the way that you go inside the numbers and give us some indication, things that we should look at. And then obviously it will be a debut in terms of Coach Prime, Coach Sanders, in regards to what he does on the field in terms of SWAC component. I do
Step
like
up in weight class.
Yeah, you're stepping up in the weight class, but I do like the fact that you can see the discipline there. And that is necessary. And one of the things that I have seen with Jackson State over the years, even when they had some of the great teams, you would question sometimes some discipline frameworks of how they would either be not very disciplined or overly emotional in terms of what goes on. This is going to be another game where you're going to have to keep your emotions. Talking about that, we talked about Southern in Arkansas Pine Bluff. We talked about Jackson State and Grambling. We talked about teased you out in the baseball diamond in terms of what that looks like in the East Division. You have rivalry week this week in terms of the West Division. Southern and Grambling take it on in terms of Grambling traveling to Baton Rouge this weekend for a 3-game set. That'll be fascinating. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Saturday at 5, and then Sunday at 1. So I'm interested in terms of that's something to keep your eyes on as we turn to the baseball as well. Let me go back to the football because that's where we end, really squarely looking at football. And we're going to talk about Texas Southern at Prairie View. Before I give you all a chance to break down what this looks like in terms of the football matchup, this is also a rivalry weekend in the West Division for baseball between Texas Southern and Prairie View. Prairie View travels to McGregor Park, home of Texas Southern University, the baseball program that has had Prairie View's number as of late. Will that change this weekend? Be fascinating to see as you get into the conference swing of things in terms of this matchup. Prairie View believes they're much improved. We'll get to see on the diamond. They played some good baseball in a couple of matchups against McNeese. Can that be the difference in terms of what you see with Texas Southern, a team that a lot of people believe have a chance to make a statement in baseball with Southern, new coaching, And we see that play out with Grambling being picked to win the division. So early season to kind of see what's going on in baseball. But let's turn it back to the gridiron. Texas Southern travels to Prairie View. Prairie View's had Texas Southern number as of late. This is a matchup in a lot of ways, big time rivalry game, night game in terms of this matchup at Prairie View. Under the lights, 7 o'clock will be fascinating in a lot of ways to see what goes on here. The basketball game for Prairie View to close out the season between men's and women's. We're fascinating to see what goes on there. So that's one to keep your eyes on in terms of what that looks like. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me jump to you, Charles. Stay with you. Then I'm going to go to Mike to kind of give me some insights of what he thinks on this matchup. What are your thoughts in terms of this Texas Southern Prairie View?
Yeah, Texas Southern, I think, is a great unknown in terms of what they're going to put out on the field. And in terms of, I know they lost Donnie Corley, 1,000-yard receiver for Texas Southern. So offensively, what will they have? Julian Marcantel is a star on the defense for Texas Southern, and he is the glue that holds them together. He flies around all over the place. We know of the known quantity with Julian Marcantel on Texas Southern's defense. But I tell you what, Prairie View, 9 defensive starters coming back. Trezon Conley. I just like the fact that Eric Dooley, he can score some points. So I look for Prairie View to get the victory.
Certainly. Let me jump right over to you, Mike. Any difference or anything you want to add in terms of what Charles said in terms of this matchup? I know there's some key things that you want to look at in terms of this Prairie View Texas Southern game.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Prairie View has the advantage. They've won 12 of the last 15, so that's a little bit X greater than advantage. That's domination over the last 15 matchups. So over the last 2-3 years, the Texas Southern offense has been kind of what CB alluded to in the X factor. You have 9 guys, as CB alluded to, coming back on defense, but the one to watch out for is Tristan Wallace. The wide receiver coming back. Coach Dooley was just, his quote unquote shaking my head at what he can do this year, given all of the picks they have coming in. I mean, they have several new picks. He recruited according to Build His House. He's got a couple of DBs. Lamont Landry, 6'2" DB out of Lamar High School, who may get the starting nod. He's got another explosive wide receiver and Reggie King, wide receiver, explosive guy coming out of Baton Rouge. These guys are going to stretch the offense a little bit. The one caveat is who will be the QB. They brought in Jordan Moore, 6'2" quarterback from Lufkin, but they have a transfer quarterback. So you wait to see who the quarterback's going to be. But all in all, balance on both sides of the bit. They even bought their all district kicker back or punter back. So that special teams element will be there for Prairie View. You just don't know what you're getting from TSU. And I look for Prairie View to win yet another one. And I look for them to win the last 13 out of 16 games.
Wow.
This weekend.
Yeah, good point. You making the call. You went there. Williams has a point here, said why the baseball rivalry so early in the season, you want to build up to them. I think that's a great point in terms of what that looks like. We have about 2 minutes left, so let's make this quick, fellas. Give me your thoughts quickly on the Jacksonville State, Tennessee State. Let me go to you, Mike. Give me about 30, 45 seconds on that.
Yeah. So I with Tennessee State, you look at the last matchup. They had a chance to win. I wonder how they will fare against this team. Coming into the next game. I don't know. I still don't know what I know about Tennessee State. I'll leave it at that. I think we need a couple of games to see what this team's about, what it's made of.
Yeah, it was so up and down in that first game where they give up 20 points in the first quarter and then they fight back. So you're right. Let's try to see what's going on here. But let me see if I can get Charles about 30, 45 seconds to give me an update. What are your thoughts in terms of Tennessee State, and do you want to make a call one way or the other?
I like Tennessee State having a puncher's chance in this game. Jacksonville State down year last season, but they have a tremendous quarterback in Zarek Cooper. They are predicted to kind of finish higher up there in the OVC. But Tennessee State, they showed me something with that adversity initially against the team from last week, and then to kind of put themselves in position to win the game. So huge for Tennessee State to show me some resiliency, and they got some firepower. So let's go with Tennessee State in this one.
No doubt about it. With that, that'll do it for our show today. Thank you for joining us for our second episode of the week. Continue to push for us as we plan to continue to give you 2 shows a week, Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Hope you liked us going inside the numbers, giving you some updates in terms of what took place in basketball yesterday and some games to look for this weekend. Touched on a little bit of baseball, and we certainly went inside the numbers with football. Let's see how they do this weekend, as they called it. With that, again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time right here. We look forward to you next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. It's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Horse.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost. And who the